Hi guys, today I'm going to be reviewing I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and I just want to start off by saying that this is the kind of book that changes your life. This story is about a pair of charismatic twins who are very close as young children, and due to a series of unfortunate events, they grow apart as they get older. To me, the biggest standout thing about this book was the characters. There was not a single cliche character in this entire book. They were all well-rounded, they were well-layered, they had interesting perspectives, and they were unique. They were so unique. I've never read about a character similar to anyone in this book. My favorite of these characters is Noah Sweetwine, one of the twins, and his perspective is where the story starts off. Noah is artistic, nonconformist, and he describes himself as being a revolutionary, or someone whose blood glows. Noah is the resident quirky artist of this story. He prefers to paint and sketch, while his artistic sister Jude prefers to sculpt. The real draw of Noah for me is the writing around his character. He has such a unique perspective on everything. He paints in his head and he sees people's souls, and he has such a passionate view of the world and that he makes it so beautiful and so ugly at the same time, and I just think characters who can do that are the ones that you really want to read about. Noah basically lives in his art, but he sees the world in such a vibrant way, even though he's struggling with things like his own sexuality, his reputation, the loss of his family member. It's just, he's so beautiful, and you can really see that in his writing. When you read from Noah's perspective, you can see and feel his art. You can imagine being in his position and thinking about what you would do to fix his problems, and he has so many. There's no shortage of problems for Noah. Noah just really helps a person appreciate the little things in life, because that's what he does all the time. His artwork is based on these beautiful tiny things like briefcases with rocks in them or white hair, and he makes it this beautiful, passionate explosion of artwork. People often say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but I think every one of the words in his perspective is worth 1,000 pictures. Noah was definitely my favorite of the characters, but a lot of people hate on his sister Judes Sweetwine, who is, in fact, not a terrible person. This book has a double point of view, and Jude's perspective is the second one, and it takes place 2 years from Noah's perspective. The story kind of goes back and forth like that. It's like Noah at age 14, Jude at age 16, Noah at 14 and a half, Jude at 16. It's really cool how it's not in chronological order, and I really appreciated that. It made it unique, and it made the story flow in a very interesting way that you wouldn't really expect to work, but it does. Jude is very intelligent, very superstitious, and for me, she was very relatable. Jude is extremely flawed. She has so many flaws, and she makes so many mistakes. You don't think she can ever redeem herself, but she has so much remorse that you just want her to come out on top. She's the underdog that you want to win. I was really impressed by Jude because she's such a complex, layered character, and her brother sometimes portrays her as being evil or malicious, but you find out when you're reading her perspective that she's just sad and has a lot of broken feelings, and she needs to make up for that somehow, and so she makes a lot of mistakes that come back for her in the end. Some of the biggest themes in this book are forgiveness and redemption, which I'll talk about later, but they both apply very strongly to Jude and Noah. There were 2 awesome love interests in this book, and one of them was named Brian, and he is Noah's. Brian is this white-haired wonder who carries space around in his briefcase, according to Noah. Brian is a very conflicting and conflicted character because he does a lot of crappy things that lead to a lot of crappy things being done, and he kind of sets Noah off on this downward spiral that just results in ultimately a bad situation. So I'm tempted to hate him, but I really can't. He carried this briefcase with him everywhere with these meteorite rocks in them, and Noah was just so enamored with this fact about him. And I thought that was really cute because Noah had finally found someone as charismatic and interesting as he was. The problem with Brian is that he was also relatively popular and extremely accomplished baseball player, so a lot of the girls wanted his attention, and he was very confused about his own sexuality and how he wanted to portray himself, which impacted Noah very negatively. The second love interest is this guy named Oscar, and he is Jude's. I think the beautiful thing about Oscar and Jude's relationship is that they make each other so much better, and that's really what a relationship should be, in my opinion. He had some huge character development, he was very artsy, very flawed, and he really came through with Jude even after a lot of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes in this book. There are so many mistakes. If they just weren't so good at miscommunicating, there would be no problem at all. between any of them. One of the greatest things about Oscar is his relationship with his foster dad, or the man who took him in, and who later becomes Jude's sculpting mentor. I think their father-son kind of relationship is so cute because this guy rescued Oscar off the streets when he was wasted and living a horrible life, and he just gave him a place to start new, and eventually that led to him meeting Jude. I think it's really beautiful how all the characters in this book are interconnected and they all relate to each other in a different way, which you really get to see through the non-chronological perspectives. It's really, really cool how this all works out, just trust me. I think that just about sums up the characters, so I'm gonna start getting into other elements like writing style and themes. Jandy Nelson's writing style is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. To me, it sounded so incredibly alive. It was so full of passion and excitement and electricity. The prose is extremely figurative, but it made the book come alive and become a reality for me. For me, the figurative writing style gave the characters really tangible properties, and they really drew my empathy within the first few pages. I thought they were so alive that they started to become more important than my own problems. It was one of those things where you're like, yeah, my life is important and I have a test tomorrow, but Noah's in this really tricky situation. And guess which one I'm gonna spend my time thinking about? I'm gonna think about Noah, because he starts to matter more than my own math test tomorrow. And when that happens, I think that's the surest sign that an author is writing a really good, engaging book. The writing style is probably the first thing that's going to jump out at you. It's so different from anything I've ever read and probably from anything a lot of people have read. So it's really, really big and really prominent, and I think it's probably one of the most positive aspects of this book. Like I said, a big theme in this book is forgiveness. Throughout the story, Noah and Jude make a ton of mistakes, and neither of them can fathom why the other one would possibly ever do this to the other. The way that they redeem themselves from these mistakes is really supportive of the message that you have to put yourself in another person's shoes before you can completely understand them and judge them for doing something that they did. This book really emphasized that holding grudges is one of the worst things that you can do. You really have to try to just work it out and have a good, solid conversation, because miscommunication will apparently lead to years and years of stress and sadness and growing apart. In the beginning of the book, Noah and Jude were really close and they really understood each other, but as the story went on, they started to divide in both a mental and physical way. The way the author wrote this was really effective because it left the reader really rooting for them to come through and understand each other again. I thought the storyline was so fun to read, and I think that the non-chronological point of views really contributed to an interesting kind of suspenseful method of writing where you know what's going to happen, but you don't know exactly how it's going to conspire and how the characters are going to react to it. It's more about the journey than the final destination in this book. I could honestly talk about this book forever. I love every aspect of this. I love the writing, I love the characters, and I love the storyline. As soon as I put it down, I wished I could pick it back up again and read it. I loved how it was about more than one kind of relationship. It was about romantic relationships, family relationships, the relationship between siblings and parents and children. It was so beautiful. It was just the kind of book that you think about for the rest of your life and that you hold on to for a really long time. For me, I'll Give You the Sun really made the world a brighter, better place because of these characters and because hardships are able to be overcome. If you've already read this book and you want to check out some of the artistic references that Jandy Nelson made in this book, go to her website. She has an entire art gallery of references that she had in the book and sculptures that she may have mentioned. It's really cool and really helps me visualize the story that much more. In conclusion, I give this book a completely serious 6 out of 5 because I thought it was that amazing, and I really think you should go read it if you're into contemporary and if you're into young adult fiction. If you like this review, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, pick up this book if you're interested. See you next time.